And I'm curious, with your community, in your marketing, these kinds of things, how do you position? How are you positioning Appsmith with regards to these other players in the space? Have you ever said the open source version of X? Are you shying away from that kind of thing? How are you generally talking to your community about what Appsmith is doing in relation to others?
Yeah, that's a great question. One, while there are a lot of tools in this space, it's actually interesting to note that our biggest competitor today is probably actually just vanilla React, to be very honest, right? And you'd be surprised how low the penetration of something like low code or no code is, especially in the engineering community. So while something like Retool does come up every now and then, we don't try to actively position ourselves as the open source Retool because to be honest, while Retool is a good product, we really think that there's a lot of scope there. There is a lot of scope to actually build something that is going to be extremely engineering and developer centric. And that's kind of why we don't really think too much about Retool or try to position ourselves as the open source Retool. In fact, I don't think you'll ever see that written, on Appsmith. When people ask us, how do you kind of position yourself over here? The main thing that I tell them is that we position ourselves as an open source low code framework. And now what that means, and for developers, right? And what that really means is that, we really want to build this framework with the entire community. We don't want to build this alone. We want to build it in a way that is super extensible so that different members can actually come and contribute different parts of the product. A lot of projects that are open source are actually really hard to contribute to, right? And we want to change that. We want to make it really easy for you to actually modify the platform so that it can actually suit your custom needs. We also want the entire platform to be very developer centric. One of the issues today with no code, low code is that because it so drastically reduces the barrier to actually building applications, you tend to get distracted by all these different types of user personas that come into your applications, right? You have product managers, technical support heads, a whole plethora of these different personas who are trying to use your tool. And because of that, you try to create the lowest common denominator tool that can solve all of these different use cases and user types. But for Appsmith, we've always been very clear that it's going to be primarily focused on engineering folks. And because of that, we actually don't even shy away from writing code in Appsmith. In fact, we have one of the best coding editors of pretty much any low-code tool out there, simply because we actually believe that there are some things just better done, via code. And that's the other part of the puzzle where people come to Appsmith because they see that it's genuinely a much better developer experience. Another example of this is you can actually sync all of your Appsmith applications to a Git repo. Create commits on a separate branch, raise a pull request, have it reviewed by one of the engineers in your team, have it merged in, and have it automatically deployed, just like you would in a normal CI/CD process. And that's kind of unheard of for most low-code tools, right? You don't see that really often, or that being a strong use case if you're the customer support head who's trying to build a tool, or if you're a product manager in one part of the company who's trying to hack something together. And I think that's kind of what's drawn the community towards us, because we've just been so focused on open source, making it a framework that's really extensible, and just keeping it really developer centric. By really enabling you to write code in a much better, faster, easier manner, and even maintaining that code. And that's really why people see us as being really different.